Hi, you dawn walkers and outcasts out there. Thank you for joining me on this Monday morning on the 22nd of September in the year 2025 or the Buddhist calendar of 2568. Thank you very much for joining me. Today, I have decided that I'm not going to be using headphones when I am doing this anymore. Number one, I can't really tell how loud I'm speaking, so I've kind of maybe been talking a little bit too loud around people and stuff like that because the headphones are on. Number two is the microphone quality. Once I replayed it yesterday, didn't seem to be all that good. Now I'll replay today's audio, or I'll replay this dawn walk session later today to see how good or how bad the microphone situation is. And if it's still bad, then I will do something to fix that problem. However, I do have a small minor amount now spent, and it looks like I don't know if you guys can see this up ahead, but there's this huge puddle. I'm not walking through that puddle because I don't want to walk my walk in the morning with wet shoes, socks, and get trench foot, or at least feel like I'm getting trench foot. So we're gonna have to go back the other way. I was hoping to walk that way because there are less people. I don't want to wake people up with my jabbering or whatever, but people are getting up now anyway. And so far, I haven't had anybody made any complaints through the grapevine that they are displeased with my morning walks and morning talks. I don't put my camera in anybody's face or anything like that. Good morning, Jaden1010. Hello, I'm autistic and I love your videos. Keep it up, buddy, from India. Well, Joe, Jaden1010, good morning to you as well. Everybody's autistic to some degree. It depends how, obviously the spectrum. I myself have signs of autism. I grew up with ADHD, OCD, PTSD, and all sorts of things. So, just know this. You can do pretty much anything you want as far as success, but you're going to have to work a little bit harder than some people who don't have some sort of inhibition in their head for whatever reason it is. Because these kinds of things have multiple reasons for them, being environment or genetics or causation, which would actually go into the environmental thing. But anyway, just know that people love you, and you can do it. Yeah? You can do what you got to do. Join Diam. Hi, what's up, brother? How you doing? Jaden 1010. Me too. God bless you, buddy. Thank you. God bless you. Whatever gods there are, or forces there are in the universe, just be thankful that we're able to coexist for the moment, because life is definitely not permanent. And make the best of it while you are. And if you, I don't know if you're familiar with Mahatma Gandhi, but Mahatma Gandhi said, it doesn't matter what you do in life, but you better hurry up and do it. One of my favorite quotes. And I'm not even sure that he's actually the one to be credited with saying that, but it's where I heard him say it, and I thought it was a fantastic quote. Anyway, that being said, it is a lovely, lovely Monday morning on the 22nd of Monday, September, the year 2025, and the Buddhist calendar is 2568. It's a little overshadowed. We are out a little bit earlier than usual. It's 5:44 a.m. And this morning, I don't see us buying any kind of treats for the dogs or anything like that. So we have no backpack. We have just a little bit of money just in case we need to buy a water or something like that. But other than that, we are just free to get this exercise on. And, without the headphones, And so I want to see how different the audio is from when I was wearing the headphones. Because yesterday, I was wearing the headphones, and it was one of the best walks ever for as far as conversation goes. And unfortunately, when I played it back later, the audio was not as nearly as crisp or clear as I was hoping it would be. But that's okay, because we can always do it over again, right? I mean, shit, half the things people say anyway, they're going to say it at least 2 times in their life. And some people say that shit, 1,000 times over in their life. So, I had a friend who, he likes to repeat himself. And what he does is, his go-to is he always has an excuse for everything. And so he repeats himself over and over and over and over again. I'm tired of listening to this shit. Just listen, I've heard this before, and you've said it before, and you keep repeating yourself. You've done this for 35 years, repeating yourself over and over and over again. And so then his answer is, well, the only reason I have to repeat myself is because you weren't listening. No, I was listening. I really was. And I really am tired of listening. But anyway, that's just a joke on somebody. So, where am I from? That's kind of an interesting question when you ask somebody where they're from. I know that when I first came to Thailand in the 90s, early in the mid 90s, we went on an elephant tour. And my girlfriend at the time, who's now my wife, and some tourists, we went on this elephant trek or whatever. And the mahout seemed to think that it was extremely funny to ask people where they were from. And then before you could answer, he'd said, "I'm from my mother," which is basically a very diplomatic way of saying, "I don't give a fuck where you're from," basically. Because his clients were tourists and stuff like that. So, and it's kind of funny in a way, people like to come up with that answer. That's been going around for a long time. The problem is saying where you're from. Is you automatically see. All right. First of all, let's establish that human beings are extremely territorial creatures, right? So, in the United States, if you ask somebody where they're from, that could lead to actual violence between people. Say, I'm from this place, I represent this, and and you're from over there, so I just automatically don't like you or something like that. Right, so it's kind of a tricky question. So, I mean, the best answer that I can come up with is when people ask me where I'm from. I don't want to sound like sarcastic or anything like that, but I'm from planet Earth, and it's sort of I'm from my mother answer. I'm from planet Earth. I live in a country now called Thailand in the province of Palau, and I'm very happy. Well, I'm happy enough where I am. I live with my wife of over 25 years, and I guess that's where I'm from, I guess. Where are you really from? I don't know. Where is anybody anywhere? Where they're from? What does that question really mean anyway? Where are you from? Is that what are your religious beliefs? It's kind of a pointed question. It's something that I never ask anybody where they're from, because in a way, it doesn't matter, what part of the earth you're from. I mean, unless like that's important to you. And it's not a very important question to me. I don't like really question it. I mean, I'm, in a space right now, and if there was another person who came in my space, well, we're both sharing the same space. So that's just the way I see it. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong to think that. But to answer your question more directly, where am I from? I was originally born in Brooklyn, New York. And I guess that is not necessarily a bad thing to answer, and could be a point of interest for a story or something like that, I guess. But I think with the shrinking of the world due to the internet, that question has sort of lost any sort of traction, because so many people, like never in the world's history, or human history on the world, I should say, has there been so much a movement of people all around, you know? Understand what I'm saying? Carter E. 2016. I'm fuming my walk too. You're filming your walk also. Okay, fantastic. Now I can't look at it while I'm watching, while we're doing this, but I would definitely check it out and see somewhere else. I don't know. Where are you filming? If you don't mind me asking. And how are you filming and asking me that in the same question? If you maybe have two phones? I don't know. Or maybe you're just trolling, but that's all right too. Anyway, so the thing is, because one of the things that has occurred to me during the process of this walk thing. This whole walk thing started because I wanted to lose weight. I'd gotten up to like 216 kilo, right? No, I'm sorry, 116 kilo. Excuse me. Sorry, I guess that goes into the question, where am I from? We didn't use the metric system where I was from. No, 116 kilo, right? Which is quite heavy. And, I have a heart condition. And one of the advice from the doctors was to lose weight, because if you lose weight, then, it helps clear your arterial and vascular system and stuff like that. And so, I feel like living a little bit longer. And Mystic, great, what's up going on? How you doing this morning? Hope you're doing well on this Monday morning, 22nd of September, year 2025, or 2568. Anyway, so, so initially, like, I was like, all right, well, I'll just like walk, talk, and stuff like that, sort of like try to sort out my thoughts, because by nature, I am a writer. I write articles. I've written a couple of books and a lot of articles, and I just like to write. And so the idea of just walking and doing nothing, in a way, kind of was less appealing to me than being able to try to be creative and use the tools that are available to me at my hands, which one of them happened to be this YouTube channel that I could like start talking, see what happens. But it was an interesting thing is that the point of reference of things that I talk about normally would be things from outside of Thailand. I don't really talk about things that happen inside of Thailand. For a couple of reasons. Number one is I'm very content where I am and very happy with my situation here. I would not want to say anything that I mean, I will say things beneficial about Thailand, but I'm not gonna say anything negative. Hey, Haruswapi, sabari lupa. Want to eat your phone talk, mai? So, hello. So, I don't really talk about Thailand. I mean, there's not really much to say except, sometimes maybe I'll react to some other video that I've seen or something like that. And I could do that. So it just seems kind of a bit of a drag. So I'd like to talk about things like things that I can make fun of. And not in a malicious or bad way, but things that I can try to have a laugh about. And that is like the United States and things that are happening there, is because in a way I feel like I have, I guess, sort of an intrinsic right, being a citizen of the United States, to be critical of the United States. Right? So there's that. I mean, I could definitely do some things about Indians and stuff like that, of which I don't really have. Actually, I have a lot of bad things to say about Indians, because I've seen a lot of bad press and stuff like that. But I also have a lot of good things to say about Indians. So that's like a mixed bag there too. And I don't feel constrained about talking about people from the Indian subcontinent because, number one, I'll probably never go there. Number two, there are plenty of Indians in the United States. So it's almost sort of like we're one big country anyway, even though Trump and Modi are sort of having at odds with each other. And there are many facets of Indian society within India which are totally against the United States. But at the same time, of course, you can say the same thing about the United States and India. So, that being said, I hope I have your attention. Let's see. So, Mystic Grape said it's the 21st for me. Oh, okay. Well, yeah, right. That's the interesting thing, right? So we are here in Thailand, which is I don't know if anybody in the chat knows when the new day starts, but I think it's somewhere just off the Pacific coast of Asia, somewhere. Sawadee krap, guys. Sabadi lupao. So, we're not as far east as Japan or Guam or Mariana Islands or something like that. We're Southeast Asia. So not quite the beginning of the 24-hour period. I don't know when it does start, but it does start a lot earlier than it does for you guys in the West, like Europe or anywhere west of Thailand, basically. I was actually interested yesterday when some guy said to me, he says, "Oh, it's 5 hours difference from where this is what he said, 5 hours difference behind." So it was at the time it was 5:30 here, and he's like, "Oh, it's 00:23. It's 23 minutes into the new day here." And I was like, that's 5 hours. So the most I thought it could have possibly been was, I said, well, if it's only 5 hours, that's I don't know how many time zones it is. I was like, this guy probably lives in India, right? But no, he said he lived in South Africa. And I didn't realize that South Africa was only 5 hours time zone, 5 time zones away. It seems like it should be if you look at the map, or at least to me at least, that South Africa would be like many more time zones away. But that's what he said, and I have no reason to doubt it. I haven't checked it, and I don't suppose that I will check it, but maybe I will. Maybe I'll take a look just to see what the time zones are. I know Russia's pretty amazing. Russia itself has like 7 or 9 time zones, just because it stretches from Serbian Yakutsk Kamchatka border to Europe. So they have a lot of time zones. I think the most in the world, right? So, that's kind of interesting. Anyway, check this out. There was rain last night, and this is the canal system that siphons off the water. Right now, this is coming out from the mountains behind, upstream and going downstream. It'll keep going down and slowly be irrigated out throughout this valley. This is a tremendous valley. This valley goes from northern Thailand all the way down to the delta of Thailand out into the Gulf of Thailand. So it is a massive water system, which is really good for growing rice. So anybody else want to give a shout out from where they are? Let's hear where's everybody from today? Let's hear it. I want to know. I'm curious. Does anybody want to say where they're from? We have Jaden, he's from India, or she's from India. I don't know the male name or female name, but I'll just say Jaden 1010's from India. Does anybody want to say where else they're from? That'd be interesting. USA, Mystic Grape, USA. Well, USA is a big place too, right? So, I should have put that guy, guy, Jaden 1010, pressed him a little harder. Where in India are you from? India's a big place. Just like I'm going to say to you, Mystic Grape, where in the United States? The United States is a big place. That goes all back to the question that Jaden 1010 asked me in the beginning. Asked me, where am I from? Okay, I guess that, that does have some sort of relevance in these parameters. So I am from New York. I was born in Brooklyn. And at a very early age, Virginia is for lovers. I remember that from the 70s. They had Virginia Slims. And it was like their whole cigarette ad campaign was based around Virginia being for lovers. But thank goodness people don't smoke anymore, because that is pure poison. And if you do still smoke, well, you probably shouldn't quit if you've been smoking for 40 years. As far as what I've heard from doctors, it's not a good idea for people who've been smoking for 40 years or more to quit, because you create a trauma in your biosystem. But I hope you don't smoke for your sake and the people around you. So I was born in Brooklyn, and I first left Brooklyn when I was 17, 18 years old, and I got on a Greyhound bus, and I decided to start traveling, because I'd read books just books written in the 19th century about, the great adventures and stuff like that. All the classic books, whatever. You can name a whole bunch of them if you are versed at all in English literature. But one of the books that I read was 3 Years Before the Mast. And that was a book about a young man from England who wanted to go out on an adventure, and so he ended up getting on a boat. And so that's why they call it 3 Years Before the Mast. and how he grew up and whatever, stuff like that. It's a very interesting story at the time. And if you are interested in 19th century, sort of a look into what 19th century life on a boat would be, you might want to take up that book and read it. Anyway, yeah, so I was like, always up for an adventure. And so I got on a bus from New York out of the 42nd Street Penn Station. And I just got on a bus. I didn't have any plan or anything like that. I just had like $50 in my pocket or something like that. And I said, how far can $50 take me? Right? And they're like looking through the prices of things. And it turned out this time I could actually make it to Seattle, Washington. And I went to Seattle, Washington. I think I was 18 at the time. And I went there and ended up working on a fishing boat for a period of time. Aside from the fishing itself, oh wow, it's fantastic. Just to be out in the ocean and appreciating nature and seeing things that like normal human beings don't get to see, because most people are just land lovers, as like some people would say. But it was really fantastic to be out in the Puget Sound and then on the coast of Washington up to the coast of Canada and stuff like that. Because you really do get to see things that most people will never ever see. So it was a wonderful experience. Really one of the best experiences of my life, except for the fishing part. I did not like the fishing part because I'm an animal lover. But hey, I guess young and impressionable, sometimes, or even old and impressionable, sometimes you have to, sometimes things happen. What can I tell you? I don't know. I certainly don't have the answers for everything. I don't have the answers for almost anything. I just try. Look at this. Some kid just lost his car down there. Is that a remote control car? Well, hopefully later today the kid will come out and it's a little bit dirty. I wish I hadn't touched it. But anyway, maybe the kid will be out to claim his car today. Yeah, I'll tell you one thing about Virginia, and that is when I came to the north of Thailand. See, I've been living in Thailand in different places. I came to the north of Thailand about 15 years ago. And even in other places in Thailand that I've lived, many, many musicians, especially if they're just about my age, which is like 55 or older, one of the songs that they'll always play is John Denver, right? West Virginia, take me home, country road, to the place I belong. West Virginia, hiya mama, take me home. Hey man, you do whatever you gotta do, Mr. Grape. I try to do the stream every single day that I can. It's just me working towards my goals. And, if you feel like stopping by, we are most grateful for you to stop by. And thank goodness, we're always happy to see you. But also remember that people love you in this world, and there is beauty and things to be grateful for. So that's basically for me what it's all about. Is basically when I go on these walks and I do the stream and stuff like that, I find things to be grateful for the day, because I'm preparing myself for the day, and I think that like it's sort of like my mental jujitsu or whatever you want to call it, but like, preparing myself for the day by being grateful for the things that I can see around me. And I'm definitely grateful for it. Like, you always got to find something to be grateful for. You should, because there's a lot to be grateful for. And none of us are going through this alone. It's when we start to think that we're all alone is when we really start to get into our own heads and, have those thoughts that like just could drive you crazy, So that's why I do this, because I'm trying to keep some sort of sanity amongst, in my life. Plus, another thing is, when I do these streams, I get to talk in English all I want. Now, I live in a place where I have to, most of the time I speak Thai, because there are Thai people here and they prefer to speak Thai. Most people don't even speak anything but Thai. And not only that, they speak a northern dialect of Thai, which like people who speak like Bangkok Thai, if they were born in Bangkok, they wouldn't even understand what these people in the north are saying. And I'm very certain the same thing is in India and the same thing's in the United States. Like if you took a Yankee and brought him down to the Blue Ridge Mountains, he wouldn't have an idea, he wouldn't know what the heck these people were talking about, Art is, man, art takes you out of your, it gives you some sort of a meaning and stuff like that. Although, I'll tell you something funny. Well, you might not know this already, but I used to read like Somerset Maugham. Renaissance, not Renaissance. What was the period of artists like Gauguin, Picasso, and stuff like that? Anyway, you know why a lot of them went crazy, right? It's because the chemical compounds in the paint crazy. So they'd paint and like lick their fingers and stuff like that. And then I would like give them like lead poisoning or some other kind of poisoning, and then they'd go nuts. I don't think that's why Gauguin went nuts. I think Gauguin went nuts because he had syphilis. But that's another story. The Moon and Sixpence, great story, written by Gauguin. Written by Somerset Maugham about Gauguin and his other friend, who was a famous artist, who was like always trying to like sort of like rescue him. I don't think it was Picasso. I don't know. I forget. It's a long time. Long time since, I mean really long time. I'm talking about like 40 years since I was reading those stories. Great time. Wonderful stories. The world was young and adventure was always on the horizon. Now adventure is not quite the same way it used to be. And I'm glad that I feel like I was able to have adventures when I was in like the late 80s and early 90s before the internet came around, because it was a totally different game. There was no internet, there was still like, it was sort of like the end of, not sort of, it was the end. So like to find out information, I'll give you an example of how you would find out information. You didn't have Wikipedia, right? So how would you find out information, right? Well, I'll tell you how you would find, back then, how you would find out information. You would, one of my favorite ways of finding out information back then, especially because I had just turned 18 and the legal drinking age was 18 in most states, is I'd go to the bar. And I would like try to talk to the old timers. Right? And I would talk to the old timers would tell me this and that, whatever. And generally old timers, like older men, like if you're 18 and they're 60, they're not going to lie to you. I mean, unless it's like some I don't know, a real psychopath. You know, they're going to try to either they don't want to talk to you, or they will talk to you a little bit or whatever. It depends. It depends on the vibe you give off and the vibe they have and stuff like that. But you can get information. Like you could, that's how you could get information. Like if you didn't know where, like the municipal court building was or whatever, like sort of drivers, the motor vehicles and stuff like that. If you wanted to find those information up and you didn't have a cell phone or anything like that, going to the bar was a really good way of getting information, because you could, if make sure you go to the right kind of bar, and you can get some information. Another way to get information, though, would be is if you were a member of a religious organization, right? Because then you could go to the church and you could talk to somebody of your faith, and you could probably get much better advice that way. And information. Maybe not. Maybe you get. When I say better, maybe when you get better information, you just get different information. So that was another place you could go. Let's see. You could go to the library. That's another place you could have gone. Find out information. Or one of my favorites, places of going for information and leaving messages for people, this is before I started traveling, was the corner store, the grocery store, or as we called it in my neighborhood, the bodega, right? So you had the guy who worked the counter there, who knew everybody in the neighborhood, and you could actually like leave messages for people and stuff like that, and he would give them the message, so that is a big difference from today. I miss those days in a way. I probably mostly miss them because of the inevitability of aging, but there's no way around that yet, although they're working on it. Science is working on it, and believe you me, if they ever figure out how to, I doubt they're gonna. How are you gonna get if they? If they figured out how to give people everlasting life or 200 years worth of life and good health and stuff like that, there is no way, just no way they're going to give that out to 8 billion people on the planet. So we can forget about that. I forgot about it a long time ago. That whole, they're going to make something for us so we can live 150 years or 200 years in good health. You're not going to get it if you're an average person. It's going to, the people who are going to get it, like the ultra rich people, the people who are at the top of the ladder, and they might already have it. To be honest with you, have you ever seen pictures of Forbes magazine? And have you ever looked at the pictures of like the top 10 richest people in the world? They're all in their 90s. But if you look at their pictures, I've never seen 90-year-old people, and there are some who aren't multi-billionaires. They don't look like them, that's for sure. Just physically, like the skin and everything like that. So they must be taking something. Baby blood, probably, right? Stem cells from babies. Or something like that. That's my guess. I don't think I've seen that magazine. Forbes magazine? Forbes magazine, Forbes. They come out, it comes out, it's like they have like the Forbes 500 or Forbes 100 every year, like for the richest people and stuff like that. It's not a magazine that I regularly read, but I do know about it. Because I don't have any money to invest, and I think like any investment that they have inside of that magazine, you have to have like more money than, like for example, I'll give you an example. If I had enough money to invest in something that they were talking about in Forbes magazine, I wouldn't need to invest in it because that would be enough money for me. I don't need a lot of money, just enough to have a decent place to live, decent food, and I will admit that I like to spend money on clothing, because when I was growing up, I was very poor, and people used to make fun of me and my family, my sisters and brother, for having to shop at what they call secondhand stores and stuff like that. So all the clothes that we bought were like the store was called Nearly New. Well, there was nothing new about them, and you could definitely tell if somebody was buying those, right? So I didn't like that very much, having to wear nearly new clothes or secondhand clothes and stuff like that. It would bother me less now, but it was a sort of a stigmatism that stayed with me for a long time, because even into my, and that's when I started to do something about it in my late teens. So I started making money, and then I'd basically just spend my money on, well, one of the things I would spend my money on was clothes. So I'd have decent clothes, because you get stigmatized, Anyway, that's just sort of what I did, I've lived in Philadelphia. I had a really interesting time in Philadelphia. I had a good time in Philadelphia, obviously. I mean, I think, I was 19 years old when I went there. I might have been 19 or maybe even 18. I don't know. It had to coincide. Let's see. I went fishing. I went on that trip across the United States to Washington after I was in Philadelphia. So it's like everything happened in like sort of rapid succession. Like when you're young, like all these things can happen because you're not planning. Well, at least I wasn't planning anything. I was just sort of like, any which way the wind blows, I'm ready to go. I'd already dropped out of school a long time ago. So, adventure? Oh, I was down for adventure. Because I felt like my philosophy was, and still is to a large degree, is that the wealth I have in life is the experience of life. Like, money doesn't necessarily. All right. When did your phone talk me? Phoneจะตกไหม phone จะตกไหม ตกแล้วตกแล้วเหรอ My great Mystic Phone says, my phone is going to die soon, so I'm going to let it charge. If you're streaming tomorrow, I'll join the stream. I always super appreciate and hope to see you again. It was really pleasant interaction with you. You seem like a very pleasant person. And so, hey, man, I hope to see you again. And I hope you're doing well, and may you enjoy good health and happiness. All right, see you later. Nice to see you on this little walk that we're going on. And pretty soon we get up to the Vista, actually, at some point. Unfortunately, I gotta pee like the Dickens, but unfortunately, I gotta wait. I can't, just pee anywhere I want. So, that's all right. We don't have too much further to go, But anyway, where were we? I think the topics we were on today so far are pretty positive vibes and stuff like that, and that's just it's a nice way to live your life, in my opinion. Not let things bother you, things you have no control over, just eat away at you and stuff like that. That's just absolute torture. I feel sorry for people that have that problem where they just can't let something go, and it just eats at them. And it just like really just makes them upset. And really, they're very unpleasant people to be around. So let's keep the positivity flowing. And at the same time, when you're able to keep positivity flowing, you're able to think better, make better plans, or make healthier plans and stuff like that, you know? And it's, I mean, just all the benefits that come along with it are really good, you know? Just try to enjoy each day as it comes, because you never know when your last day or your last moment's going to be here, right? You really don't know, you know? And a lot of people, they forget this, you know? Because human beings by nature seem to forget how mortal they are, you know? Because this game could end at any moment. I could get smashed down by a semi-truck, or bit by a snake, or have a heart attack, or struck by lightning, or a meteor. But I don't worry about those things, you know? If it happens, it happens. You know what I mean? And whatever. I have a strange turn of events and topics to talk about, you know? Which don't, you know, I guess they're all linked into gratitude and happiness and stuff like that in a way. But I'll tell you what is bothering me is I gotta pee. And I gotta find a place. Go off to the side somewhere, hopefully farmland or something like that. I gotta pee bad. I don't know if I can hold this in. Oh boy. I knew I should have gone to the toilet one more time before I left the house. I drank too much coffee, that's what it is. Coffee will constrict. And, you know, but unfortunately, there's just way too many people up this morning. I mean, I haven't seen at this time so many people awake. My wife was telling me last night, oh, you just wait till tomorrow. You're going to see everybody still partying and having a good time and all that shit. And I was like, yeah, right. But I think she was right. As wives normally are. Usually right, and men are too thick-headed to listen. Anyway, I'm going to have to do this. And I didn't want to do this, but I'm going to have to do this. Because I am going to have to say good morning and good afternoon and good night to wherever you are on the planet. And I hope that you enjoy good health and happiness wherever you are and whoever you are. And, you know, whatever higher power you might believe in, or if you don't believe in a higher power, well, you know, may the goodness of the universe be with you. Anyway, thank you so much for listening to me this morning. I've really enjoyed it, and I super appreciate all the interaction with everybody, because that makes it so much more special. So thank you, Jaden1010, and thank you, Mystic Grape, and thank you, who else was in there? Carter, 2016. Yeah, thank you all. All right, everybody, please have a wonderful and healthy and happy day. Goodbye.